So as promised, I said I would do another video around the eclipse times, and this is going to be the video for the solar eclipse, which is coming up here in the Pacific Northwest on October 14th. It's the annual solar eclipse, and what's cool is I watched a video this morning. It was an astronomy video, which is talking about this eclipse that's coming up and where it's going to be visible across the world, and it is actually starting here. It's becoming visible here in Oregon, which I thought was really cool. So it's going to be visible here, really the southern part of Oregon, and it's going to cut across the United States down into Texas and into South America. And so aside from that, I'm going to talk about the energy of this eclipse and where it could be impacting you, how it could be impacting you. And so let me pull up the chart of the eclipse. So here's the chart of the solar eclipse, again, October 14th at around 10:54 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And here is the representation of that eclipse, both the sun and the moon, at 21 degrees Libra. So before I get into the energy read, I got drawn as I was thinking about or feeling that I was going to do an energy read for the eclipses. I've had this book sitting on my end table that I purchased a while ago. It's an astrology classic. It's considered an astrology classic. I know it's out of print. I know it's hard to get your hand on. I know when I got it, it was one of the last few out there. It's by Robert Karl Jansky. It's called Interpreting the Eclipses, and I will link it in the description box below if I can find it. I'll at least give you the author and the title of the book. So I really got drawn to read this book in preparation for this energy read. So I knew the energies that I was pulling were going to be mirrored in this book. And so I'm just going to read this small section here where he talks about, well, what is a solar eclipse? What is it bringing to light in our lives? So he says, the house in which the solar eclipse occurs is an area of life in which there is a need to expand the space we occupy at the physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual level, depending upon which element, earth, water, air, or fire, the eclipse occupies by sign. To aggressively pursue each expansion if in a positive sign, to let it happen if in a negative sign. So I'm not going to get into the positive and negative signs. He has a little bit different slant in terms of if you think of the signs from a feminine and masculine perspective, yin and yang perspective, his interpretation is a bit different. Like, for instance, Scorpio and Capricorn, which are normally yin signs, he sees as masculine signs. And I tend to agree with him. I've always questioned, especially Capricorn. I'm like, Capricorn does not feel like a yin sign. So when I read that in this book, I'm like, oh, I definitely resonate with his interpretation. So going back to this statement, the element here is air with Libra, and Libra, from his interpretation, is more of a negative sign, which means allowing things to come to you rather than externalizing and going out and getting it. So I just wanted to bring that message across here. So this eclipse is in Libra. So aside from that information, Libra is all about externalizing ourselves, bringing it out in relationship to other people. So that's where this eclipse is. So you can look at your own chart, look at 21 degrees Libra. Do you have any personal planets there? If you do, I'm pretty sure there's going to be an impact during this time for you. Even if you don't, where's Libra in your chart? 21 degrees Libra. What house does it fall in? That'll give you more information. And so the other thing to consider, or the other thing that I've considered here in this energy read, is any planet that is conjunct this eclipse is considered the ruler of the eclipse. So it brings the energy of that planet into the eclipse. And so here we have Mercury, which is at 17 degrees Libra. So it's 5 degrees away from this eclipse. Usually 5-degree orb, so meaning 5 degrees away from the actual point, is the limits. They're typical. I mean, They're not hard and fast rules, but that's typically the guideline, is 5 degrees is the limit. And so I looked at this and I'm like, okay, is Mercury really influencing this eclipse? And I feel that it is. So I'm going to read another passage from this book where he talks about Mercury ruling the eclipse, and again, what that can bring to light or highlight during this time period. So Mercury in conjunction, he says, this crisis relates to more than the thinking process, the intellect and communications, those things we normally associate with the symbolism of Mercury. It goes deeper. There is undoubtedly an intellectual crisis, and ideas that you previously held sacred may be revealed as sheer stupidity. For a time under this influence, you will cast about looking for new sacred cows to replace those that you've lost. The deeper challenge is to begin thinking now for the first time about things that you've never really thought about or scrutinized before. It can also be a time for you to discover that you can have intellectual pleasures as well as physical pleasures. You can sharpen your perception of the things around you, little things you've never noticed before. Look for the humor as well as the pathos in life. Increase your light conversational abilities. Begin writing that book you've always planned to write someday. Give the child in you a chance to come out and play. Many adults, as they grow older, forget how to play. Everything they do must have deep meaning and purpose. Now is the time to rediscover how to play again. Most especially, talk about, think about, and play around with those things related to the natal position by house of Mercury in your chart. And so I feel that all of that is accurate. I also feel that with Mercury as the ruler here of this eclipse, certainly the mental process and how you have thought about relationships could potentially shift at this period of time. The other thing to consider here is all eclipses are part of what's called a Saros cycle, which simply means they're part of a larger predictable cycle of eclipses. And so what that means or how that's useful is you can look at an eclipse, you can look at this eclipse and say, what cycle is it part of? There's always an eclipse that starts the cycle in a specific sign, and that sign colors all of the eclipses that come after it. So for this eclipse, it's ruled by an eclipse that started at 20 degrees Sagittarius. So that means that brings in the Sagittarius archetype to this eclipse. So Sagittarius is the traveler, it is intuition, it is expanding knowledge, it is seeking truth. So all of those elements get added to this Mercury Libra flavoring of this eclipse. The other thing to consider here, or that I've considered in this energy read, is Mercury is opposing at the same degree, 17 degrees, Chiron in Aries. And so what I was getting here is that Chiron considered the wounded healer opposing Mercury. The energy I was getting there was bringing to light anything, any beliefs, any potentially traumas, difficult relationship experiences that have conditioned our belief systems could shift at this period of time. With this opposition, what I'm getting there is almost like Chiron is almost sending healing energy into Libra, which could come through in the form of a healing relationship. And we're going to look at the Sabian degrees here too to grab more information, but meaning that there could be relationships that are maybe more recent, or relationships maybe that you've even participated in but not deeply. They come in and they help highlight for you some beliefs about relationships that are no longer serving you. They shift the perspective in some way. And so that's a big energy that I'm getting here with this eclipse. We can look to the ruler of Libra, And we see that Venus is at 5 degrees Virgo, which is a Mercury ruled sign. Mercury rules Virgo. So again, it doubles down almost on the communication piece. So some type of communication, some kind of thought pattern has the potential to be brought to light here. So again, to look at this from your perspective in your chart, where is 21 degrees Libra? Where is 20 degrees Sagittarius? Because that's the ruler of this eclipse. Where's Aries, Chiron and Aries? Even where's Venus? Where's Virgo in your chart? 5 degrees Virgo. And this would give you more context in terms of how this may impact you directly. So let's pop over and take a look at the Sabian symbols for where the solar eclipse is taking place and where the ruler Sagittarius 20 degrees is. So here's the Sabian symbol for the 21 degree Libra mark, and it is a child giving birds a drink at a fountain. So being naturally helpful to others. So again, that's why I'm getting this energy of this mentally constructed beliefs that you have, or even imprinting from past relationships that were deeply impactful, even maybe trauma, or maybe just deeply emotional things that came to the surface as part of past relationships that have colored how you think about relationships and how you think about yourself in terms of how you relate to other people, can be brought to light here simply through collaboration with other people. Being able to listen, one of the superpowers of Libra is to be able to listen to another person's perspective and then be able to gain wisdom from that perspective. Being open, being curious as you have dialogues with other people. Then we look at the Sabian for the 20 degree Sagittarius mark, and we have a child and a dog with borrowed eyeglasses. And so walking in the shoes of a master. So the other part of this with the Sagittarius piece, which gets entered into the solar eclipse, is gaining wisdom. And it could literally be that you have a relationship with a healer or a therapist or an astrologer or a friend, anyone that has wisdom or has direct experience that maybe has experienced some of the things that you've experienced within relationships, which can help shine a light on some things for you that maybe you've held on to from a belief standpoint that need to be shifted. The other thing I'm getting with Sagittarius here is going back to the passage I read in this book about Mercury, having fun, having play, joking is definitely part of Sagittarius energy. And so it's almost like the Sagittarius energy as part of this eclipse is opening up the energy more. If you think of this, or what I'm thinking is this Chiron opposing Mercury is healing. So healing the vibration or the frequency that you're carrying so that you're able to enjoy the experiences in relationships more. So opening up your energy more is what I'm getting here with Sagittarius. And so it could certainly be representative of gaining wisdom too. And I get that strongly where there's somebody that can help guide or shine a light on things for you. But then going back to the lightness and the play, maybe where past relationships like that Chiron energy, where things got pretty serious, and maybe in past relationships there was some deep inner work that went on through the relationship, or it was just intense from an emotional standpoint. There was a heaviness to it. Maybe it was required. I'm sure it was required so that you can understand things from a deeper perspective, or having to go through that experience to gain the wisdom, Sagittarius. But potentially during this eclipse here on the 14th, there's an opportunity to be a little more lighter within relationships, have fun, have play. Think of what I'm getting in my mind is like, why is the word not coming to me? I see it in my head. Like I see people like playing back and forth or texting back and forth with one another or flirting. That's the word I was looking for. Flirting with one another and bringing more of that passion out, which maybe wasn't there because of past chironic experiences. This eclipse might bring to light some of that fun and some of that playfulness that's been missing. So that can certainly mark this time period as well. So that's what I have for this eclipse here on the 14th. Hopefully this message was helpful in some way. I certainly appreciate your energy. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again in another video. Take care.